Thank you, Hadron, and Dr. Samir once again. So as we say, it is our pleasure to have you with us, our audience. We appreciate you being here. And we are now going to move on to our next session. And next up, we take a look at the DeFi Dilemma, regulation versus decentralization. Our panelists will weigh in on the benefits of innovation and decentralization against the need for regulatory safeguards and compliance. With a 20-year track record of creating and scaling businesses within global financial institutions, it's my delight to welcome to the stage our moderator, Luke Fraulich, CFA, CAIA for RAK Digital Assets Oasis. You're going to welcome your panel. The floor is all yours, Luke. Thank you.
Everybody was very busy talking about their meme coins trade. But we're going to talk about serious stuff. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Luke. Very glad to have you here today. So over the next 30 minutes, we're going to talk about what is most likely the excitement in the finance space and probably the most significant development in the history of finance, decentralized finance. So I spent the past 20 years before joining RAK DAO in banking and asset management. The past 7 years focus on finding out how to improve finance, and definitely all the roads leads to the DeFi space. Now, one of the challenge with DeFi, and there's a few challenge, is there are actually not so many users. So the question is, why aren't we drawing more users to the DeFi space? Number one, user friendliness is a bit of a challenge. Number two, there is the challenge of regulation or the lack thereof. So today, I've got a fantastic panel to discuss different aspects of the DeFi space. So can I start with you, Alice? CoinMarketCap, one of the names that everybody would be familiar with. Please tell us a little bit more about your business, what you do, and what you have seen in terms of the evolution of the DeFi space.
Sure. Thanks very much for joining us at the panel. My name is Alice. I'm head of research at CoinMarketCap. And CoinMarketCap is the #1 data source in crypto for everything pricing, market cap, and on-chain data related. So we have about 790 exchanges that we connect with 2.4 million different pairs of crypto coins available. And then we have about 10 million API visits per month. So with this, we then gather a lot of data on what's happening across the industry. Exactly like what Luke mentioned, DeFi, RWA has been a very important theme for us this year. Now, from a data perspective, RWA, real world assets on-chain, has now currently have about 30 billion market cap across all the different projects. And at the beginning of the year, it was only 10 billion. So we almost 3-folded on that this year. So that just shows the biggest growth area in this space. Another interesting thing I wanted to share, which ties to the beginning of the keynote, congratulations for having an AED stablecoin, because we are seeing a very important trend in the market for this cycle, which is stablecoin market cap has hit historical high, 172 billion USD stablecoins available, and now with the AED joining as well, I think this will set the stage right for all the DeFi projects to come.
Thanks a lot, Alice. So I'd like to move on to how we actually help the traditional finance space to benefit from the yield and the opportunity that are being created in the DeFi space. So Pritam, can you please enlighten us?
Yeah, so hi, Pritam here. So I lead Zot. Zot is an ecosystem of RWA protocols. We bring traditional finance product, especially fixed income, bonds, treasuries on chain. And we also have an yield-bearing stablecoin primarily serving our retail consumers. We have over 106 million deployed and over 1.5 million users on our platform. Primarily, adding to what Luke said, I think the biggest Biggest challenge that we are seeing is primarily for a DeFi native user, there are multiple use cases that RWA can bring, especially around collateralization, especially around bringing those assets to serve as the bedrock of how the DeFi ecosystem works. The biggest challenge that we are seeing is there are multiple challenges around KYC, KYB, regulation, lack of clear regulations, which is primarily driving lesser adoptions of that assets. But US treasuries especially and corporate bonds have picked up really well, not only just as primary issuance where user buys them directly, but also in DeFi use cases where they are used as for lending, collateral, etc. So I think it's just a matter of time with more forward-looking regulations that it will get more adopted well everywhere.
Thank you very much for sharing that. So we're going to touch a little bit more on the regulatory aspect with Alex, but before moving there, one of the main risks that users face when it comes to the use of DeFi protocol is smart contract risk. So, Dima, your company play a big role in actually making this space safer. Yet, when we prepare this panel, you were pointing to some gaps, I think, in the landscape, especially on the regulatory side. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dima. I live in Abu Dhabi recently with my family. So yeah, it's probably the most famous risk, I would say, smart contract risk. But DeFi and generally crypto is like the most risky area, the most risky industry in the whole world. You know, you can lose money by phishing, you can lose money by losing the speed phrase, you can lose money because of the peg. So altogether, we are losing like around 7-8 billions a year. So, and yeah, unfortunately, you're right. There is no clear regulatory guidelines, and there is no way how that someone is pushing on the global level projects to pay enough attention to the security, to make proper audits and checks, and rather they are doing this just for tick marks. That I have done token audit. Here is it is from hacking or whatever other company, but in fact they have huge infrastructure with a lot of risks, and they got hacked eventually. So yeah, we definitely need some regulatory guidelines, and hopefully RAK DAO will be one of the leading regulators in this domain.
Thank you very much for sharing those thoughts. So using this regulation and the challenge of regulating the DeFi space, Alex, I'm looking at you. We already had a very intense discussion at the back of the stage. Over to you.
Regulating DeFi is just not going to work. The regulation is for centralized counterparties, it's for institutions. We're watching regulated institutions want to participate in DeFi and they want to bring in regulations, and that's for them. But at the end of the day, if we look at the risks that we're trying to mitigate, AML, counterterrorism financing, these are things we do want to mitigate, but you can't have an AML check if you want to go buy your groceries. Like, you can use payments, you can use crypto for that, but you're never going to regulate people. And while you have people, peer-to-peer action, this is going to be something that we're never going to win. The genie is out the bottle. You can peer-to-peer transfer, but it's ungated. So we need to look at offering mechanisms to protect people, right? So if we look at wallets, right? My platform, we have account abstracted wallets, right? So we can use someone like Safe, Biconomy, and this eliminates seed phrases, gives you an MPC wallet that's recoverable. We don't want to keep losing money as we do through hacks, through phishing. So we improve better tools and educate people. But regulating DeFi is never going to work. It's too wild.
So is it about, I'll pass on to you in one sec, is it about regulating the institutions that deal with the clients but not the technology itself?
If an institution wants to become regulated to facilitate that, they can. Otherwise, you know, you can just create standards, and people can have that benchmark, that certification, but you can always abstract away from these entities, right? So if you have a wallet, your keys on MetaMask, right? You regulate MetaMask. Someone can take those keys and re-spin up the wallet in a different tool. So where does that get you? I think we need to educate people, bring up the whole standard of the industry, but we need to understand at the end of the day, this is peer-to-peer, and it's only institutions that want to get regulated. People do not.
Dima?
Yeah, I would argue with the statement that you cannot regulate, like in our case, smart contracts. We can look at the Tornado Cash case. So those guys, they created a software that helped like everyone, including criminals, but it was used mostly by criminals, to mix in thousands and millions of transactions stolen money so that nobody can track them. And there was an argument in the industry that, guys, okay, your product is being used to hide stolen money. There is a way, for example, you can put the blacklists in your product so that once some committee says that this is from the hack accident or they are stolen, you are not, you are blocking this money from the mixer. And they agreed on that, but they implemented it only on front end. Eventually, the code was still being used by the criminals. So what happened afterwards? Then regulator, US, whatever, they, or in Amsterdam, I don't know who sentenced the guy, they arrested him, and the whole community started to be against it, how you can arrest a person who is just writing the code. But in fact, this was the first law enforcement action, maybe not even like a proper law enforcement. It was like a clear message to the market that don't create the software which can lead to bad things happening with consumers. Because I had a lot of friends who lost money. And eventually what happened right now, Tornado Cash is not working. People are not using it. You cannot mix money there because it's pretty easy already to demix it. And right now the mixers are no longer, very popular. And right now everybody to track stolen money became way easier. And right now we have more and more cases when people get a recovery of their stolen funds.
Right.
Yes, Alice, please.
Yeah, I think that's really great answer from the previous two panelists here. I wanted to add one thing, which is to separate what regulation is for user experience versus regulation is for the safety and security of the industry. Right, so for the user experience, I think you guys touched on a really good point, which is Web3 interfaces tend to be quite complicated. That is not Web2 friendly. You have to link your wallet, you have to bridge different chains, you have to do transactions on different platforms. So if we have regulation on top to make it even more complicated for people, for the KYC, AML, etc., it's going to be not so encouraging for onboarding a lot more Web2 users. So keep the balance is very important here. However, on the other side, regulation is important when it comes to different asset classes in DeFi. Because DeFi is not one thing. DeFi has stablecoins, DeFi has payments, DeFi has the more sort of deeper in the way side of derivatives and whatnot. So they should definitely take different priorities. And when it comes to regulations, I think we are seeing across the world when it comes to DeFi regulation is to go in with the most vanilla side of assets like stablecoins, etc., and then gradually implement it across all the different asset classes. That seems to be the goal.
So jumping on your point about complexity in the different asset classes, I'd like to bring you in, Anura, and tell us a little bit more of how actually you can leverage the DeFi infrastructure to help people do things that are a little bit more exciting. than just transacting on an exchange.
Hey guys, so my name is Anwar, the CEO and founder of Record.com. Record.com is a brand new video platform, only launched 3 weeks ago, and we're hitting 1.4 million daily active wallets. When we initially did this, it was a pure Web 2 play, right? And like what Alice was saying, from a Web 3 angle, it's very, very complex, right? Wallets and staking and protocols, no one gets it. And I would say I've been about a year to 2 years in the Web 3 space, and I always like to ask this question, and it'll be good to kind of hear someone's feedback on it. What's the difference between a Web 1 user and a Web 2 user, right? Why are we distinguishing Web 1 to Web 2 to Web 3? So the underlying infrastructure helps do what the users want to do. That's the beauty of the blockchain. No one cares if it's on Polygon. No one knows what Polygon is. So like the industry is addressing a lot of these UI, UX issues just to kind of tell people exactly what to do and how to do it in a very, very clean and simple language. So, and that's how we got so many users so quickly across our platform.
Very exciting, and thank you for sharing more about this. I think the idea of abstracting away from the technology is a critical point for the adoption of DeFi. And then it might actually point out to other areas that should be regulated and other that should not be regulated. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, it's say abstraction away, right? Simplicity, user experience, you know, technology. I think the best example to talk about this is MP3s, right? MP3s came out and a bit complex to decide what software to use. Then you start using things like Napster, and everyone's trying to regulate this. And they're like, who do we prosecute? And they start trying to point fingers, and that all went away as technology advanced. When now we use things like Spotify, which use more or less underlying the same technology, but you don't need to know what the technology is. Like you just click and you get what you want. And so we're sitting arguing about the complexities of the technology, but it's just because we're early, and you need to look at wallets, right? Having the attack vector of wallet is insane. You know, you shouldn't have to be financially exposed. And so we're building technology now to make it look more and more acceptable, and then we won't be having this discussion. We won't have that. Like, it'll be a niche case where people go off into the wild, and then they're at their own risk.
I just wanted to say I'm glad that Alex referred an Napster, because sometimes when I mention it, it's like nobody really remember it, but that was actually one of the key stepping stone in terms of technology use.
Just a quick question then. Why do you think it's so complex? Is it because CEOs, founders, they're more engineering based? Do you think they don't have a good marketing department? Like, just out of your curiosity, why is it so difficult?
Maybe I can.
Okay, yeah, go for
maybe
it.
I can add to that. So, you know, for example, what we have seen, it's not necessarily complex just because the founders are technical, but I think some of the inherent features of DeFi, for example, if you have to do staking. How do you do it without knowing how? Like, if you can't create an wallet.
Okay, so let me add to that, right? If you're talking, okay, let's say we're trying to solve the problem of onboarding the next billion users, right? Now, obviously the Web3 community, it's about 100 million, would you say, roughly? How many people are in the world? 8 billion? Okay, so we're talking about a very, very minute population. Now, most of the people, if we're talking, say my dad, 75 years old, barely knows how to use that WhatsApp. Do you think he knows what staking is? Like, do you think there's an educational component to it that needs to be leveraged, done in a very seamless and easy way?
No, exactly what you said. So I give you like the best example of this. I have seen with some of Grab companies in Singapore. So when I was during token 2049, especially every Grab user now has a wallet. Means you don't even realize it's built on Polygon. It's fully abstracted. But what, if you get into some of the DeFi native apps which are getting built on that ecosystem, people actually, the wallets are opened on their own, and they have, for example, very simply, easily communicated products which are actually staking, which for example, one product that we saw was digital dollar, where you can basically buy, you are buying perpetuals based on US Treasury bills, but it's being marketed as digital dollar. So I think some of the key features of Web3 needs those fundamentals, and I think that easy user experience has not been built, but some companies are really doing it, and they are seeing good adoption.
Yeah, we've seen good adoption, like 1.4 million users in 3 weeks. No one knows they have a wallet. The wallet is integrated. We're exclusively built on Sui. No one knows who Sui is. And it, yeah, sorry.
No. We know what Sui is, and we support the ecosystem. Now they know. I hope so. I'm not sure how we're doing with time, but I have one question for each of you, right? What has been pretty clear through this discussion is that we're still figuring out how to simplify things, which maybe as a takeaway, it's not a surprise that regulators have such a hard time to figure out what to do, because even we're still at this stage of the evolution where we're thinking about what the tech should be and how to simplify it. So a quick question to each of you. What do each of you think would be the main trigger for, I'm not going to say mass adoption of DeFi, but at least that we get to, say, 200 million users? Like that would be already a big jump.
2 words, UI, UX. That's it.
I think for me, it will be stable coins or maybe yield-bearing stable coins. Many people get it, and it's already seeing mass adoption.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's this emergence of this killer app might be actually the real starting point of DeFi tokenization. But over to you, Dima.
Well, when people will stop losing money in this size as we are doing right now, and you are talking about simplification. Yeah, and simplification is about a person who wants to enter the space, but he doesn't know which project is good. He doesn't know what influencer is not selling him some crap, sorry. So simplification is about making a decision, and decision is about some party taking a responsibility to evaluate the crypto space, do this research for someone else, even though in our industry, like everybody's saying, do your own research. But in my vision, regulation is about like taking this responsibility and doing all this research that a person that is not involved in the crypto space 24/7 is not able to do. So I would say regulation will definitely bring us to mass adoption.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on an interesting point, and maybe this is also what you mean by UX, but I do have a big challenge when I hear that we should educate people. We should train them to understand how this technology works. Yeah, we talk about Napster. That was pretty challenging to get on with, and now actually is being used for any type of file compression and transmission. So I'm a little bit skeptical when I hear about education, because I had to spend also, and I'm sure each of you had to spend a lot of time educating their leadership, educating their client, and you could argue that the secret sauce might be actually the UX.
Just a question, why do you need to educate users? Why do they need to know what protocol it's built on? And you can say the benefits, right? So in terms of transparency, ownership, seamless payments, and security, right? But do they need to know what kind of code is built in? And it's like Apple, you know, I don't know how an Apple phone works, but it's clean and it's simple, right? So.
Exactly, and that's the point. There should not be any education. It should be seamless. It's like you use it and it works. To some extent, finance should be that way. You should not have to worry, oh, I'm going to allocate my capital here or there. I'm going to use this fund, this ETF. It should be seamless. Alex, adoption.
Well, I have to agree with Anwar. Like, I mean, I'm building a user experience platform. So Redefined is totally about user experience. It's about a consolidated user experience, right? And so if we think about the breadth and width of DeFi, every single protocol, every single DApp is built by different people. Even the last place I used to work at, Binance, each of the apps within that app are built by different people. So there's a user experience is different. In Binance app, transactions can mean trades, deposits, can mean anything, right? So what I'm building is one unified platform. You can add in the DEXs, you can add in central limit order book, you can add in Aave, you can add in Morpho, you can add in whatever you want, but it always looks the same. And you know, Web 2 experience, you know, no one needs to know, they just need to understand the utility, right? You know, is it stake assets and get yield? Is it trade memes? Is it, you know, swap to make remittances? You know, it's the desired action from the user is what we care about. Everything else we don't need to care about.
Yeah, I think that we're going to be critical. Ali's very curious to hear your view. Obviously, CoinMarketCap has been already democratizing this space to some extent, making it easy for people to watch what's happening and ask more questions.
Yeah, sure. So circle back to your original question of 2K words. My first word would be high quality data, and that comes to the transparency of it and the integrity of it. And that is what CMC has been thriving to be with 14 years of experience looking after crypto data, making sure we do our due diligence at what we source and how we present. And that's the number one thing about quality data. And the second word I want to mention is about solid infrastructure. And that comes from both a technology point of view, from regulatory point of view, from also organizations like RAK DAO that are helping support the innovation happening in local markets. That's very important as well. And without this type of infrastructure and the innovation and encouragement on it, I don't think crypto is able to flourish globally at different places. So I think that's very important.
Thank you for the note. I think I cannot hope to close this panel on a more positive word. So thank you very much to each of you for your contribution and good luck in helping the adoption of the DeFi space. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.